Hey, what up, guys? John Wetmore here out of Atlanta. Hope everybody's doing good today. I'm going to take some time and go through. I'm going to go through a few things with regards to, I guess, the journey of this thing. A lot of you guys are watching and maybe are new to this, maybe having success to some level and trying to get further. Again, you might be new, trying to figure the thing out. So I'm going to give you some perspective on what this things look like for me, especially now looking back. I have obviously a very different perspective today than I did when I was out there selling, having seen further down the path, of course, now. And it brings me back to when I was newer and understanding how I handled things along the way and how many of those things hurt me. And if I had learned things, taken advice, taken feedback sooner, I'd have been for a lot further along, and things would have happened for me quicker. Funny enough, I was talking to Sean this morning, and we were reminiscing a little bit, and I was I was reviewing an email that I had received from someone. I actually tried to start in 2008, and that's the first time I applied to anything with the old company we all used to work with, and I didn't actually get started until 2012. So it took me 4 years to even start. I did try to start once. So it took me 2 years to get licensed. So 2008, I started inquiring. It took me to 2010 to get my license. And then it took me to 2012 till I sold my first policy. So slow start guy. Definitely didn't come in killing it. And again, I think a lot of what slowed me down, I know a lot of what slowed me down was my emotions, the way I looked at things, my vantage point. I would look at things how I saw them. And I've learned my view without feedback and help from others along the way was messed up. So now one of the things I love to do, and my favorite part of this thing today is helping you guys figure this thing out, or helping anyone figure this thing out that maybe understands things the way I did. Started out, maybe started out slow, maybe didn't. But where I find my most joy now is helping people that maybe their mindset is off, and a small tweak, which they typically don't know, but maybe someone, again, you guys might be hungry. There might be someone out there hungry, dying to do better, and is just looking for some direction. And for me, what I get to do now every day is help people with their thought process and look at things different and understand things from a different perspective and why we do what we do. So if I look back building this thing, and I'm not going to give too much sales stuff here. There's plenty of people training on sales, and I haven't sold in 3+ years, so I'd be the last guy to give you any specific stuff or long stuff there. But I'll give you my thoughts on it in the sense of more from the building side of this thing and what it took. Because although I started out slow, I knew from the beginning I wanted to build it. And I started hiring in 2010 when I first got my license. Started hiring there. I didn't put enough into it, looking at it, whatever, made some mistakes, this and that. But I didn't really get any traction on hiring until probably mid 2014. 2015 is when it really started taking off. And coincidentally enough, that period of time is when I really started selling at a higher level and making some changes. And really it was just attitude and activity, like Sean talks about, continuing to be humble and hungry every day and understand that I had to build something. And so now looking back and helping guys and girls grow this thing, I've realized a lot of us get in our own way a lot. And one of the things I've learned along the way is building this, I had to be really dynamic I had to learn to be, because I was not. And I'm still learning every day. So some of you know me might still say he's still not. But point being, I had to really learn how to deal with a lot of different people, different personalities, different backgrounds, different thought process, ages, sizes, all that. And that was a struggle. And when I look back on it now, I really relate this thing to in-home. And the reason I say that, and And if you're brand new, maybe you don't get this analogy if you've been with us for a minute, especially those of you guys that are out there killing it, selling, and looking to build. Maybe you're at a point where you're stuck. We've all had stages where we're stuck, um, or struggling to get past. But when, one of the things that I really started to pick up on was, we have this ability when we sell to go see a large quantity of people. Like, none of us are confused that have been selling. That for us to be successful on the sales side, we have to be willing to invest heavily in leads, and we have to see a large number of people. And over the course of time, when you mix that with skill set, this thing becomes unbelievable. And that course of time can vary for everybody. I think the amount of work, effort you put into this, and the people's learning curves are different. But the reality is, it's a combination of, investing enough, seeing enough people, and tweaking your skill set as you go. But honestly, the simpler you keep this thing, the better. I learned how to sell a few things really good. Only used a few carriers. I didn't sell 975 different products. I got really good at a few things. For example, if you're wanting like 25-year cash back, I got really good at that. Thank you, Frankie. Teaches it better than anybody. Got really good at selling, for instance, seniors, say folks over 60, a mortgage lead that couldn't qualify for a term. I got really good at selling the buying time. There's a lot of people who have good trainings on that. Matt, I was just talking to somebody about Matt's this morning. And I got really good at selling young folks, 20-something-year-olds that couldn't give a rip. And that was really it. And I got really good at asking everyone about annuities. And I'd write like 1 or 2 a month. And I stayed in those like 4 lanes, and that was my deal. So teaching this on the building side, again, probably the biggest thing I've learned there is how relatable it is in the sales side because of the activity requirement. So meaning if you're trying to build and you're interviewing, talking to a few people a week, it's to me the equivalent of running a few appointments a week, right? We all know you have zero shot of selling anything significant doing that long term. And the building side is the same. So one of the best things I ever did was relate. We'll call them interviews. They don't have to be official interviews, but talking to someone like Trey always says, take someone from not knowing about family first life to knowing about family first life, whatever you want to call that. For this purpose, I'm calling it interview. I started relating those interviews to appointments. So meaning if you've got a guy that runs 10 appointments a week versus a guy that runs 25 a week, there's going to be a clear difference. You can't keep up. So same as someone that interviews 10 people a week versus someone that interviews 25 a week, your business is going to grow quicker. And very similar to selling, when you have 25 appointments in a week and Mary no-shows you or says she's not interested or has to talk to her attorney or is, upstairs taking a fake nap or she has a fake call, all the stuff we deal with. When you have 25 appointments a week, you don't give a rip because you're expecting that. The reason you have 25 is because you aren't going to be able to sit everybody, and you definitely ain't going to be able to sell everybody. But if you stack the odds in your favor, you don't have to stress out about stuff because you're going to get checks throughout the week and help people who really want help. And, again, you're going to get a certain amount that have a check ready for you when you get there, and you have to do a little work for some more. And there's some you're never going to sell. And agents are the same way. When you're talking to 25 people a week, as an example, again, whatever your number is, if it's 10, if it's 20, if it's 40, if it's whatever the number is, if you can learn to relate appointments to talking to people about the business, for me, that helped. Because if I had a week when I only interviewed 2 or 3 people and then I'd let something silly come out of my mouth about how unhappy I am with the result, I could check myself. Like, dude, you really did only interview 2 people this week. Like, you slacked, and that was a big relational thing to me. Like, oh, this is just like sales. And probably the other big one for me is really starting to learn, and this has really only happened even more recently. It's really starting to make the relation to in-home and dealing with agents in the sense of personality types, or maybe the mood somebody's in today. For instance, if Mary is mad at you, mad at the world when you get to the house, arms crossed, foul, tell me what you got, I'm not buying anything today, just so you know, that type of client, you handle that client in a certain way, right? Now, if you're sitting with Mary and she's mad and she's sitting there with her husband, Bob, and he's happy out of his mind, you'll handle that slightly different, right? And then if you're sitting there, Mary and Bob are both mad, you handle that again very differently from each other, even though same people. And I started looking at this thing from an agent perspective, and I would I started having ridiculous control in the house with clients. And I knew if I asked questions the right way, probed the right way, set them up the right way, made a connection the right way, sometimes slow down, speed up. The things we do in the house where we're so dynamic and so good and so in control. I've learned that when we're dealing with building a business and dealing with agents who have multiple personalities, different types, all the stuff we deal with on the hiring side, I've learned that I wasn't dynamic when I left the house. I was a one-trick pony. I could only deal with people in a certain way. I would get frustrated. Agents would know I was frustrated. And a client, if Mary didn't know I was frustrated. Now, when I was newer and selling and I didn't sell 40 grand a month, Mary in the house knew I was frustrated. And we wouldn't get, then she didn't like me and I'd have to leave. That's when my Killamette used to get complaints. And when I started understanding that I need to be in control of what clients feel and hear, and I can say certain things and control it. When I brought that over to the building side, it changed everything for me because it allowed me to deal with each person differently. And my emotions became more and more removed from it. Because the more people I started talking to, the more people I could find that were in my sweet spot. Just like in home, stick to 4 or 5 things I'm really good at in this building side. Like, I don't know everything about everything, but I know how to do what I did. I can tell you what I did to get here. And I've certainly messed up a ton of things along the way. And building this thing can be that simple. But again, that one of the biggest things I've noticed, again, think about how you interact with agents or new hires or whatever. My biggest struggle was I was producing, I got to a point where I was producing 40K a month plus. And then I expected every single person I hired to do the same. And if they didn't, I treated them probably the wrong way. And when I really started classifying people like we do with in-home, where are they? What type of person am I sitting with? Is it a lay down? Am I going to have to work? Are they happy? Who am I sitting with? I started doing with that with agents. Things changed. It got easier. I started getting more clarity. Short-term goals, structure, fear of loss, all these things we use in home started helping me with the building side. And it allowed me to understand that I was in control of a lot more of it than I thought. And if I could, one of the biggest things, and I'll bounce a little bit again, I apologize. One of the biggest things I learned during that discovery was it's so important to start to understand. And this is critical for me. I have a very A-type personality. I want to run through a wall. Some people can take things the wrong way, and I would get frustrated with that. And when I started to understand this concept of it's more important what people hear than what I say, right? Meaning, I'll give you an example. If you're managing some agents and they call for, I don't know, phone script help. I need help phone script. I could talk 20 people today, couldn't book anything, right? Now, my approach, I'll give you 2 approaches. I can go, hey Bob, I hear you. Hey man, are you listening? You not getting on the trainings? Have you not listened to the video? And I could go like that. And what that agent is going to hear from me is, hey, he doesn't really want to help me, regardless if it's right or wrong. I mean, he might not have trained ever, and you might be 100% right. But what that agent heard is, damn, John doesn't want to help me. He's kind of an a-hole. Whereas now I can do something like, yeah, it makes sense. Hey, why don't you do me a favor? I'm actually walking into a meeting, which probably I am. I'm going to text you this video. Why don't you take a look at it, watch it, take it in, and then call me after and we'll go over anything you don't understand. They hear that different. They hear like, oh, dang, he's going to help me. Yes, I'm going to help you. And it's the same process. You still got to watch the video and we're still going to talk about it after. But the agent hears it differently when I deliver it that way. Just like in-home stuff. If you pay attention to your delivery, they hear it different, they take it different, they act different. And when I started learning how to deliver, because I always had great intentions for people, but the way I like to learn and understand things and be told what to do is not the same as every other person, which is completely normal. But for me, I didn't understand that at first. And I know many of you guys don't either, which makes sense. And I started treating it very similarly. What's very funny is you can do that at home too. It's changed the way I deal with staff and Maddox. If if I'm trying to get Maddox to do so, I can approach him differently. I do my best to approach Steph differently now if I'm trying to get something across or a message or get something done or whatever. It's a universal. It's helped me in a lot of ways. So I think that'll be a big key for you guys. I would think from there, starting to understand, which way. I'll give you another example. I was talking to Zach this week, and he was dealing with some issues with leads. And the new agent wrote some leads, and he was having some trouble with it mentally and how to handle it. And one of the things you discover, my buddy Dom delivered this really good recently, and I'm stealing it, is he started looking at leads, no matter how he got the leads, whether he bought them or they rolled or whatever it is, whatever the lead issue is, he goes, I started looking at leads like they were leads from my agency, period. So meaning if a new agent comes in and buys leads and it doesn't work out, and maybe you have to have a cost for that for whatever reason, if it rolled or your response, whatever the deal is, you can have some level of frustration at that one individual agent, which is a very narrow focus. Or you can look at it big picture and go, dude, it's only like he got 20 leads. I'm like, dude, it's 20 leads. I'm not trying to be rude, but bro, you've been doing this a long time. You can't figure out how to make $500 back on 20 leads. Whether you give them to another agent or help someone else, give them to a new agent, get someone started. And I started realizing when I looked at this thing truly like a business, like really, and really paying attention to how to get volume, how to get clients help, how to make sure enough people that need insurance are getting it. That changed for me. And where I was telling Zach is like, why be frustrated there? Like, that's just like any business has stuff. I used to work at a Little Caesars, and sometimes we would order tomatoes and like 9 of them at the bottom of the box would be like going bad a little bit. Like, cost of doing business. We have to learn to keep it moving sometimes. And those things have really helped me scale this, because what we do is not hard. There's no one individual thing that's massively difficult. When it comes to building, though, there's a lot of little things, very easy things to do every day. But I think what's hard is doing them all every day consistently. That's the hard part. But there's nothing we do day in and day out, any one thing. Again, running ads is not hard. Interviewing 25 people is not hard. Picking up your phone when people need help is not hard. Doing sales trainings and calls, all the stuff we have to do to grow this thing. Or again, even sales. There's nothing hard about doing a lead order. There's nothing hard about picking up the phone and dialing. There's nothing hard about making 400 dials other than mentally. There's nothing innately difficult. But putting it all together, lining it all up day in and day out is the hardest part. Being consistent. It's like going to the gym. Like, going to the gym is not hard. Being on a treadmill is not hard. Like, running full speed is hard, but getting on a treadmill is not hard. Using an elliptical, not hard. Moving weight, not hard. What's hard is the sacrifice you have to make to go do it every day and being sore and missing stuff and not being, and just, it's doing it part every single day that's hard. But none of the individual activities are hard. And again, when you start looking at this thing very similarly, for me, it helped. It gave me insight, because I use that skill set, my mind, and to control how emotional I am and how hard and how like the law of attraction, and have all those skill sets that you guys use to sell at a high level. They're the exact same skill set. You just have to adapt it to the business and building side. But there's an exact analogy. Another one I'm thinking of off the top of my head. When you guys go to the house, you do short-term goals and structure. Here's who I am. Here's why I'm here today. Here's what we're going to do. When you're hiring people, I noticed at the beginning, I didn't give short-term goals and structure. I did a bad job at doing that. And just like in home, those of you that have a really solid first few minutes, your intro is strong and it's intentional and it's guiding and it's assumptive and asking the right questions to avoid pitfalls later. All those things you do in the house, y'all should take that exact same skill set and apply it to the business. Meaning, the troubles with agents. They ain't going to pick up the phone, right? That's going to be a struggle. They're not going to buy enough leads. They're going to struggle calling for help. They aren't going to remember when all the trainings are. Like, we deal with all this stuff. And yet, when you hire someone and interview them, the question is, are you really establishing that same short-term goal structure, intentionality, speaking the way you need to speak things, preventing objections before you get them, you know? And when you start adapting that stuff to the business side, for me, it just became lights out, because I was like, oh, this is exactly the same. It's now just a volume game, a scale game, and I can be less emotional about it. And now, just like in home, when I'm running 100, 120 appointments a month, I can about cherry pick. You know, I have more control over my income and what I can produce. And now, when you're talking to this many people and building this many people up with time, and more people coming around to help, and leaders and managers and all these people that we get help from building this thing, with time it gets easier. And just like selling, again, you get Schmidt out there running his appointments. Like, selling is easy for him today. Like, do you have to do a lot of work and wake up early and stay out late and be at? Yes, but it's nothing innately difficult anymore. You know, and building this thing becomes the same way. And then you start having a large pool of people that you can find that you can relate to and help. This thing becomes, for me now, is like a dream job, you know, and I just get to help people all day, make more money. It's insane, on the phone. And I can go back to all the hard work and the grind and being in the field and getting no-showed and having problems, being an emotional round, all these things, all the trouble, the hard days, you know, when you go for six, or I remember days where you'd go out and just the day just doesn't go right. You know, the car don't start up, you get a flat tire, you run out of gas, whatever it is, you're late to every appointment, something happens in your personal world, all these things that happen along the way, your emotional strength is what's going to get you through it. And I wish, although it taught me a lot, if I could change one thing majorly, I'd go back in time, and I'd have worked on more of my mental strength earlier, and understanding the things I was emotional about. All they did was slow me down. You know, if I had approached the problems in a different way, with the intentionality that we approach in home. If we're struggling in home, we know we got to pay attention to the approach and things. We got to work. We got to make small tweaks. And I wish I held myself to that same level of accountability on the building side and growing side sooner. Again, I'm here, so life work. It is what it is. But if you guys can take that part from me, and really understand how similar it is, and how in control of this thing you are at scale, when you take the same thought process of in home and you can carry it over to this business side, this thing becomes lights out. And I promise you, those of you out there grinding now that feel overwhelmed, or you can't, you get so many calls, you can't, just all the building of this thing. I feel you. Just keep doing it. It gets easier to manage. You get more help. There's so many managers and agents killing it now and helping run this thing. The team we have is insane. So those of you trying to really build this thing big, you feeling overwhelmed, you're on the right path. You're headed in the right direction. Just keep doing it, keep growing, and look at yourself. Really look at just like you ask your new agents. All right, and this will be the last analogy I'll make for in home, and I'll wrap with this. When we're hiring and dealing with new agents, right, and they're having some lack of success in the field, very often they blame external things. It's the lead, it's the area, it's Corona, it's everybody said this. There's all this I didn't know the product. It's all this very external stuff. And here's the hard part: when you're building and you're not building like you want to build, the words that come out of your mouth are, my agents didn't do X, this guy ain't doing Y, and you put all this external stuff. And all the reasons you aren't growing is because of this guy and that girl and this person, this staff and this recruiter and this. It's your fault. You're being like the new agent on the building side. You're putting the external, like, I had to put it on me. When I understood it was me that was causing the problems, and understanding I was being the equivalent of a new agent on the business side. I wasn't calling enough people. I wasn't hiring enough people. I wasn't running enough ads, and I wasn't paying attention to the words that come out of my mouth like I did on the in-home side. And when that clicked for me, I'm like, God, I'm the problem again. you know. Um, so hopefully that helps you guys. And if you can take that stuff and run with it and learn to really teach it, you can then do what you dream of, in the sense of now you have time and money. And when you go out there and you help a bunch of people succeed and and do what they want to, help them be a part of what they want to do for their families, I know I'm willing to run through a wall for those of you out there that help me. So I know what that does. So if you guys want that, go out there and help a bunch of people figure this thing out. But it does start with you. 100% on the building side. It starts and ends with you. And I bet if you look hard and deep at some of the stuff you're doing day in and day out, you'll see some of the relations. So appreciate you guys. It's been a great day so far. Luffles killing it. Appreciate you being a part of this thing, and everybody that helped put this thing together and contributed. Thank you all. Anything we do to help, let us know. Otherwise, y'all have a great day. Continue with it. Later, y'all.